Right, and a very good day to all of you. We are chatting today. My name is Dr. Philippa Fabry, and I am Education Services here in Port Elizabeth. And today, leading up to Human Rights Day, we are going to be having a discussion about some of the things that teachers might be struggling with in the classroom, specifically when it comes to reporting neglect or abuse in our classes. We've got vulnerable children, we've got young children who look to us to protect them. They come to school with all kinds of different backgrounds and situations. And so often as teachers, we don't always know what our responsibilities are in that respect. So I'm joined today by a social worker. I'm going to bring her on in a second. It's Deonette Janse van Rensburg. She's a social worker. She has her honors in both social work and psychology. And she works for, or her company, her business that she's going to tell us a little bit more about is called Mind Matters. And so I'm going to bring her on right now. Hello, Deonette.
Hi, Philippa. Thank you so much for having me.
Welcome. It's going to be a very interesting discussion, I'm sure,
And a
specifically
needed
as
one.
we are approaching Human Rights Day. Yes,
Absolutely.
yes, very, very important. And I've been contacted by a couple of teachers wanting to know where they can access you and Mind Matters. So tell us a little bit more about Mind Matters and what you do.
Thank you so much. So, yes, I'm a mobile counseling social worker. I go to the different schools, children's havens in the area. I go to private clients as well. So, I see the children within their own environments where they feel safe, where they feel comfortable. And then I
Mm.
do assessments, I do evaluations with regards to if social services are needed, and then proceed with the healing journey after that. If any referrals are
Mm.
needed after that process, I'm happy to write letters or do any reports that can assist in that process.
Okay. Yeah, I think social workers are today the most, they must be so, you must be so busy. I mean, there must be such a need out there for people like you doing what you're doing on the ground, responding to calls, trying to assist.
Yes, absolutely. And that's why we also see in our CMRs, our RCFFs and Department of Social Development, the massive caseloads. There is such a need and so few social workers employed in the different areas or organizations. And then, as you mentioned also previously, is how nice it would be to have a social worker in every school to help with the process,
Mm, mm,
with the resources, with the counseling. It is definitely it's a needed definitely a needed profession.
yeah,
Um,
for sure.
yeah.
Mm. Okay, so I mean, we're going to be talking a little bit about children's rights and which of them is, I suppose, more applicable to educators and schools. So, I mean, I just called up, Bill of Rights, South Africa, and I got this information brochure, and it talks about that children have the right to a name and a nationality at birth, family care and parental care, basic nutrition, shelter, basic health care services, and then these three that pertain more to us as teachers. Number one, education. Number two, social services. And number three, protection. So we're looking at children who come to school every day, looking at have they got lunch? Are they clean? Are their clothes clean? Have they been washed? Does it look like they've had enough sleep? So talk to us a little bit about maybe what are the warning signs that teachers should look out for, specifically, where there could be some red flags that something's not right at home.
Okay, so there's different ones. Most of the things that you'll see is more behavioral, which is your aggressive your outbursts. Children maybe who are usually extroverts withdrawing and becoming a lot more quiet, children who lash out quickly, children who are excessively clingy, anxious in certain situations. It all definitely differs from abuse to abuse. So there are the different ones, and especially
So
with
behavior
neglect.
changes?
Yes. So as in, if you would look at a sexual abuse, just for example, it would be things like maybe masturbation in the classroom, age-inappropriate sex play, those type of things where it wasn't perhaps seen before and now start to manifest and shown within the classroom, within the play setting with peers, bullying, um, calling of names. You might see then also that aggressive. So if the child is exposed to it at home, it's definitely something that is shown towards peers on the playground, in the classroom. Loss of concentration, lack of emotion, because they become apathetic. They don't show any emotion anymore, and some children become oversensitive, depressive. So there is such a varying amount of different emotions, behaviors that manifest that are trigger signs. And obviously, some children or some parents become a little bit worried because they suddenly say, oh, my child has shown their private parts in the school. Should I be worried? So obviously, then we also have to look at age, appropriate developmental play, because that also, it happens. But when does it become a concern? So then you look at how often does it happen? Does it happen consistently? Does it happen in different environments? Does it happen where it actually where they practically act out certain behaviors,
Scenarios.
sexualized, bullying, physical abuse? Yes.
And then in terms of sort of physical, like I mentioned, the clothing, so neglect. In other words, what are the signs of neglect, or where
Okay,
the
so then that
parents
is
are
more,
just not present because they're busy with other
yeah.
activities?
Yeah, so that would be more in your unwashed. So the hygiene would be lacking. Clothing might be torn or dirty, not washed. So the child would be coming with clothes that have been worn a while, torn, that is not fixed. And that's not necessarily always neglect. I know that poverty um, is prevalent in a lot of homes, and a lot of parents can't afford to quickly fix clothing. So it's
Yeah.
definitely, when we look at, when we do our assessments or our evaluations and our home visits, we look at what are the circumstances to better get an idea of why are these triggers or these red flags showing. There's things like with the neglect also, is that we see that with a malnutrition, children not, so either becoming excessively thin, with their protruding tummies, anything like that, that you might see that they're not eating, not coming to school with lunch if it is a required thing that they need to bring to school. Yeah.
Okay. So teachers, in other words, if you're noticing these patterns and it's becoming almost an issue where now other children are noticing as well, so it's becoming part of the child's world, that they are not only feeling embarrassed or shy, or that other people are also noticing that I'm neglected, or that I'm not, it seems as if my clothes are not being washed. I'm never, I never have what I need in the classroom
Yeah.
like my friends have. So it's becoming apparent to everybody.
Yes.
And
remember now
then,
also,
yes.
sorry, is that the child who is, so they're coming from this maybe environment that there is neglect, physical abuse, sexual abuse. The teacher is the first person who they can approach to talk to. You are the first person as a teacher, as a caregiver, to notice things that might not be you might not be used to seeing in the specific child. So it will be an incredible personality change. Or if they were looked after, then suddenly those things might start to change or differ. We'll also see maybe a change if they're shifted between houses, maybe go to Oma's house or Granny's house and then to Mommy's house. You also see the differing degrees of care within the homes, and that also is sometimes a red flag, because then you see maybe when they come from Mommy's house, they might have bruises, torn clothing, maybe they are complaining or wetting themselves often, not sleeping, so all the time tired, nightmares. These are things that they might be able to come to you and tell you about, because you might not necessarily see those type of things. And that's why it's also so important to keep that open door, that policy, that approachable nature. You are the first person other than home that they can trust and that they can talk to.
Yeah. Then let's talk about what are the responsibilities of the teacher then. So whether the child is coming and disclosing to you as the teacher, if they come to you and disclose, it's a bit easier.
Yeah.
Because then you have, it's not a suspicion anymore. So if teachers just have a suspicion that something's not right, what should they do?
Okay. So according to the Child Care Act, Section 110, mandatory reporting of any type of abuse. So that will be your emotional neglect, physical neglect, your sexual abuse, physical abuse, anything like that, your emotional abuse, that is a mandatory reporting for anyone who works with children, whether you're a teacher, a principal, occupational therapist, speech therapist. You have a legal duty to report your concern. Okay, so the reporting process might differ from school to school. So you would then need to see, okay, what is my reporting process within the school? Do I need to first go to my grade head, who then discusses it with the principal, and then do we have a meeting with the other teachers to see if they are maybe also seeing these signs and these symptoms? So it might differ from school to school. Teachers are also more than welcome to get a social worker in and say, I've noticed this, what do I do? So what the process is usually is, teacher will then, if there's a grade head, they will report to the grade head. They will say, I'm noticing these signs and these symptoms in this child. It's not how they used to be, or they're causing a very big concern. I think we do need to report it. That would then go to the principal. They can talk to the other teachers to see if they are also noticing the same things. And then a Form 22 can be submitted. So a Form 22 is a formal document that is submitted to either social services, so CMR, RCFIA, or Departments of Social Development, or even SAPS. It's got a whole lot of detail where you mark signs, symptoms, emotional, behavioral, physical, all of that in this very, it's a definite, comprehensive document. It's submitted to the necessary Departments of Social Development or organization, and then that is then dedicated to a specific social worker within the area that the child lives. So then the child will then, either the social worker will come to the school, speak to the teacher, speak to the principal, hear themselves what is going on, what are the concerns, have an opportunity to speak to the child, and then the process then obviously can be taken further. What we do notice is that a lot of teachers or helping professionals are hesitant to speak to social services or submit a Form 22 because of what are the repercussions. Will I be threatened? Will someone sue me? So we see that a lot. And then often that is when we see nothing being really done with this child, and often then they are they slip through the cracks. So what we're encouraging helping professionals or people that work with children to do, report, mandatory reporting. If you are concerned about any legal suing or anything like that, in the Childcare Act, it does state that if you are reporting out of good mind and good
sound mind or sound mind, and
sound mind,
that it's
yes,
not just a hunch, you have proof.
it's out of true concern for this child, you cannot be legally held accountable. So even if they say, okay, so there's not, the social worker maybe will then do a home visit, and they'll say, okay, there's not physical abuse. We can see maybe they need assistance with this or a food parcel or maybe something like this. Just because there's no founded proof that there's physical abuse and this is how you reported it, you cannot be legally held responsible because you're doing it because out of the goodness of your heart and your concern for your student. So that's what we're saying is you can also, what we're saying to community members, to teachers, to parents, report anonymously. You also have that option, but rather report than sit and do nothing. And then a few days or months down the line, something happens and then it's too late to actually do something about it.
Yeah. At what point should teachers take further action? So maybe teachers try and manage everything in school. You know, you speak to the child, you maybe bring in some counseling for the child, you try and contain it within the school as far as possible. At what point do you make a decision in your head, I can't leave it anymore? What's that?
Okay.
What is that decision? Where's that line in the sand?
So if you're having those discussions with the children, if you're having those discussions with the parents, and they are physically not making a change or an effort to do anything to better the child's living conditions, then you report that. Because you've now gone and you've made extra effort, you've put in those steps, and you're saying, please, let's look at this, let's do this. And if they're not working with you, then you can report. If the child's life is at risk, if their safety is at risk, you report.
Right. Yeah. And just tell me that form 22, that can be filled in anonymously, right? And can the teacher, before they even start filling in the form, can they almost talk to you first and say, this is what I'm seeing, this is what I suspect, this is what we've done. Do you recommend we go ahead and submit this form? Would you be able to give them some advice?
Yeah, you're more than welcome to contact a social service organization within your area. You're more than welcome to contact me as well, to come and have a look and have that chat. I also do talks in the schools with the teachers and say these are the exhausted signs and the symptoms. This is the reporting process. This is what disclosure is about. Often people have this negative thought of what a social worker is. We're people who come immediately and we remove children from their parents' home and then put them in a children's home or a children's haven, and it's really nothing like that. We believe and we are taught to keep the family together, family reunification, keeping that bond together. Yes, if it is at the risk of their safety or if the child is severely being harmed, then there is the unfortunate situation of the child having to be removed and being placed in safe care or temporary safe care. But often, more than likely, we work with the family and we work with the school. So we work together as a team. So then we see what can the teachers bring from their side. How can the teachers support the family? How can we as social workers support the family? Do they need food parcels? Do they need assistance to parenting courses? or mental health services, anything like that, we provide them with those referrals and the necessary support. So it's not about bursting in, removing children. We really there. We're to help and see what is the best interest of the child.
For sure. So where can people get hold of you? What are your contact details?
So my contact details are, my cell phone number is 083-515-2412. And my email address is mindmatters.playtherapy@gmail.com. So like I said, I'm a mobile play therapist, a mobile social worker who counsels. So then I go to the specific schools, I go to the homes, and I do the assessments there.
Wow. Okay. So they can contact you. Teachers can contact you for advice. You can go in and do talks at schools about protective behaviors. You can help the teachers to know what, to just, I suppose, put their minds at rest that what they're doing is the right thing. Because yes, as teachers, we don't want to split up families unnecessarily. We don't want the worst case scenario. We do want to just do our best as teachers and follow through on those responsibilities.
Yeah, and the reality is if you're going to be brave and you're going to be making that report in the best interest of the child, parents do become defensive. They do. They will say horrible things to you. They will make threats, all of those things. But you've got to just in the back of your mind know that you're doing this in the best interest of that specific child, because often it isn't reported. It is just left, and then the child goes from grade to grade or school to school, and nothing is ever said. And then something happens, and then people will always ask, "Yeah, but why didn't social services step in?" And that is then also, it's a sensitive thing because people are too scared to report. So that's why we're saying, report anonymously, speak to a social worker, contact me. If you need more information, let me know. Let me come and chat to you and say, okay, if you're noticing these things, this is the next step. This is what I suggest.
Yeah, I think it's great. I think it's great that you've put yourself out there, that you are available. So just say your email address again,
mindmatters.playtherapy@gmail.com. All small letters, all together.
Okay. And we'll put the links, yes. In the comment or in the post when this goes onto the platforms, we will put your email there, your cell phone number, and the links to that form, and any other information that you want the teachers to know. We will add all of that in so that they know where to go. But thank you thank you for joining me today. I think it's been very insightful, and hopefully, I'm sure that you will get.
Oh, sorry. No, I think it was just lagging a bit there.
Are you there?
Yes, no, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Last thoughts? Final thoughts?
No, I was just going to say is what I'm going to also then send to you is the comprehensive list of social services officers that are dedicated to the specific areas. So you'll often maybe if you've got a concern and you'll say, okay, I'm going to contact CMR because I know a social worker there, but it is often maybe not the social work area or organization that works in that specific area. They're all designated to different areas. So then I will just then send you that comprehensive list so that it'll make it just easier for the teachers and the principal to see if you're in this area, the child lives in this area, this is the social work office that you need to contact. It just makes the process more streamlined.
Okay, that's easy. Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you. Okay, so we'll put all that out there. And thanks again for joining me today. And I think this is a very, very important issue. And hopefully, we've certainly just started a conversation, and it will lead to to the next step, which is what we want.
Yes.
But thank you for
Yes.
joining me. It was lovely. I'm sure we'll
Thank you
chat
so
again.
much, Philippa.
Bye
Okay.
then.
Thank you.
Bye.